What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 episodes in terms of quality of American Horror Story. What has stuck out over the course of over 100 episodes. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Hey everybody, before we get started on this, I decided to try my hand at a little bit of merchandise for the channel, so you can check it out in the description section below. Let's get into it. Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. Number 10, Election Night, Season 7, American Horror Story Cult. This is something that I said in my ranking of all the American Horror Story seasons. When it comes to Cult, I feel like it really rejuvenized at least my fandom, and I'm not entirely sure anything else emphasizes that as much as the very first episode of the season. With the introduction of Kai, played by Evan Peters, in what is his best role throughout the entire series, as well as one of the most grounded characters that Sarah Paulson has ever played, the episode plays into the fears and excitement that would literally split the audience in half, with clips from the beginning of the 2016 presidential campaigns, as well as the inevitable conclusion with the victory of Donald Trump and the loss of Hillary Clinton. A reality that's exaggerated through the expressions of our two main leads. And that, coupled with Evan Peters' speech near the beginning of the episode about what is fear and why it's a currency and we need to monopolize it, really helps play up the necessity of this episode and creates an incredibly strong season premiere. While I feel like I've made my point very clear about the unevenness of this season, there's no denying the effectiveness of this episode, and that's why it makes the top 10. Number 9, Devil's Night, Season 5, American Horror Story Hotel. Devil's Night is a very unique episode when you're looking at the just over 100 episodes of American Horror Story. On one hand, it's somewhat slogged down with the overall story that they were trying to tell throughout that season, but at the same time, there's enough creativity there and a lot of fun with the concept that makes at least the last half of the episode incredibly enjoyable and very fun to rewatch. Focusing on prolific serial killers that have somehow come into contact with the Hotel Cortez over the last couple of decades is a really interesting angle, and it gives Evan Peters as James March one of the best chances to shine throughout the entire season. Another thing I really appreciate about this episode is that, unlike a lot of the previous episodes before it, it doesn't focus very heavily on Lady Gaga as the Countess. That isn't to say that she comes into the season as a particularly bad actress, but at that point, she hadn't cultivated her acting persona as much as everyone might want. When looking at those early performances, it's very hard to discern anything else besides this is just Lady Gaga acting in an American Horror Story season. So taking a couple of minutes through an episode to focus anything away from her and the story that they were trying to set up was, at least in my opinion, necessary for the season and made for one of the better episodes that we've ever seen throughout the series. Number 8, Madness Ends, Season 2, American Horror Story Asylum. If you're a fan of this franchise, or at least you're familiar with it, you should know that, at least as far as the vast majority of viewers are concerned, the show has a very hard time of sticking the landing. Season after season, fans are in dismay as what began as a strong and powerful story ultimately wraps up into an unsatisfying conclusion. And if there's one reason myself as a fan puts American Horror Story Asylum above everything else, is because I believe the last episode does justice for the entire season that played out before it. Setting up the entire episode as a retrospective look into Lana Winter's entire career and putting a bow on the lingering plot threads that were left after the 12th episode, American Horror Story Asylum, unlike almost every other season of the entire series, finds a way to have a genuinely nice ending for all of its remaining characters and ending the entire season in a very satisfying way. And I won't even lie to you guys, episodes from season 2 will be on this list besides this episode, but because the final episode of the season is strong enough to be in my top 10, that's why I love this season more than anyone else. Number 7, Rest in Pieces, American Horror Story 1984. Because this episode is one that recently aired, and you can go on my channel or in the description section below and hit that link to go watch my review on it, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. Suffice it to say that it is a fantastic episode, delivering on all the thrills and story beats that were promised to us before the season even began. If there's one episode in all of 1984 that really feels like it lives up to its entire premise, I think it's this one, and that's why I put it in my top 10. Number 6, pilot, Season 1, American Horror Story, Murder House. Now, I have to be incredibly honest about my interaction with this series, especially watching since the very premiere. When it came to the premiere episode, I was not sold, at least for the first 25 minutes, but there was something in there that changed my mind and made me realize just why this show was incredibly fast-paced and why it was told the way it was. Following perhaps one of the best lines throughout the entire franchise, when Vivian asks Moira whether she's tired of cleaning up other people's messes, and she responds effortlessly, "It's women, it's what we do." Before Ben enters the room, the camera pans around and we see that Moira is not the old decrepit woman that we saw at the beginning, but a hot and sexy maid for fantasizing about. The impact and personality of that scene, along with everything that we saw in the first 25 minutes before that, really stayed with me. It's what made me realize what American Horror Story was all about, and it's the energy that I feel like the show has been trying to capture since it began. It's crazy, it's sexy, it's unexpected, and it's one of the reasons why I love this show so much. Not to mention, it was the first time, at least in popular culture, call me young, call me naive at that point, whatever. It was the first time that I remember seeing Jessica Lange in anything, and she just blew me away as Constance Langdon at the very beginning. She was the character that I was immediately attracted to. I wanted to watch further, and I was super glad that she came back for Season 2, Season 3, and Season 4, with the hint that she might be coming back sometime in Season 10. One of the things I keep saying recently is that, yes, American Horror Story is the star of itself and not one particular actor, but if you had to attribute one actor to the entire series, it would be Jessica Lange. And unlike anybody else in that premiere episode, she proves it. Number 5, Bitchcraft, Season 3, American Horror Story Coven. With the introduction of Kathy Bates, Emma Roberts, and Jessica Lange's Fiona Good, one of, if not the strongest character ever introduced throughout the entire franchise, along with dark witchcraft, social commentary, and the start of what would become the broader world of American Horror Story. When it comes to Coven, the start of the season is perhaps the strongest the show has ever been. At the time of its premiere, it was the highest rated episode until the very next season, where Freak Show blew it out of the water, but in terms of its lasting impact on the brand, with hopes of either a spin-off show or a reintroduction of the character sometime in some future season, there is absolutely no mistaking how important these characters and this episode were. Number 4, Return to Murder House, Season 8, American Horror Story Apocalypse. Since the beginning, if you've ever gone back to watch Murder House and you thought to yourself, the one thing that was missing from this season was Madison Montgomery, then this episode gave you exactly what you were wanting. I'm not even joking either. One of the best things about the last previous seasons of American Horror Story is the emphasis on Emma Roberts and her portrayal as various characters. Apocalypse, she got a chance to go back to one of her best in Madison Montgomery, and she absolutely brought it 100%. The physical comedy that we got in the very beginning of this episode kills me every single time, as the realtor asks whether or not they're aware of the 36 murders that have happened in Murder House, and we just get this wide-eyed expression from Emma Roberts saying like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize that was the case." That is absolutely hysterical. It gets me every single time. But overall, this episode gave us a look back into a nostalgic part of our fandom, going all the way back to Murder House and the characters that we interacted with back then. With the reintroduction of Billie Dean Howard, Tate, the Harmon family, and Constance, in the first 12 minutes of this episode, it really solidifies itself as one of the best things that we've ever seen as fans of this series. The episode even goes out of its way to give most of the characters from the first season happy endings, with Moira once again meeting her mother, Tate and Violet getting back together, and Ben and Vivian settling their differences. Of course, we would have to wait for the rest of the season for Constance to get the ending that she was happy with, but as fans, this is a very satisfying episode and definitely part of the top 5 best. Number 3, I Am Anne Frank, Season 2, American Horror Story Asylum. This is the episode where we finally get to meet Bloody Face in person. It might not have been a very huge surprise for a lot of people watching, but just the revelation that Dr. Thredson was in fact Bloody Face, and that it was revealed through his biggest act of kindness, letting Lana Winters out, going to his home, and her finding a lampshade made out of human skin, and the immediate dread of understanding just how depraved this individual was, really hammered home the darkness of this season. Coupling that with one of the finest performances Jessica Lange ever gave throughout the entire show, with the backdrop of setting up the entire climax of the season, for me, it's really no wonder why this episode makes it into the top 3. Number 2, Smoldering Children, Season 1, American Horror Story Murder House. Like I keep saying, if you were watching American Horror Story since the very beginning, this episode was probably the biggest bombshell that the series has ever put forward. Quite frankly, at this point, I'm not sure a lot of people knew that the series was going to be an anthology. Even 10 weeks in, I wasn't even clear that it was going to be an anthology, and I thought we were going to be following these characters, this setting, and everything going forward. And the fact that they killed off one of their main characters, forcing her to live in this house, just felt perplexing to me at the time. And yet they did, and that's one of the best things about this episode. The slow build up to the reveal of the moment where we realize that Violet is in fact dead, and there's nothing that could be done to get her away from this house, and everything that curses it really changes the perspective for the rest of the season and builds to the climax in an amazing way. If it wasn't for the other episode on this list, this would definitely be the best episode that has ever aired in the entire series. Number 1, The Name Game, Season 2, American Horror Story Asylum. Look, when it comes to breaking down every single season of American Horror Story and picking your 10 favorite episodes throughout the entire series, the entire process is nothing if not a little bit subjective. With that being said, The Name Game is by far my favorite episode of the entire show. It's a dark and deeply depressing episode that still manages to be highly erotic while also showing a bit of a playful nature through the Name Game musical number that the American Horror Story franchise would later adopt into other seasons, making this episode, at least for me, an all-around genuine experience of exactly what you want from the show. Beyond that, this episode does clear up a major plot point by killing off Sister Mary Eunice and Dr. Arden while setting the stage for the final confrontation between Kit, Lana, and Dr. Thredson, as it represented a conclusion to some of the bigger plot points while setting up, as we already talked about on this list, probably the best finale of any season of the entire show. So everybody, that's my top 10 episodes of American Horror Story. If you want to go down to the comment section below and share your top 10 episodes, that is welcome. Also, if you want to just go down and share your favorite season or seasons, that is also welcome. Either way, I want to have a discussion with you guys about this amazing series. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.